New York's Chinatown is only 10 blocks from Ground Zero. While this community did not suffer massive death tolls, tourism came to a halt, the manufacturing sector slowed to a trickle, and thousands of Chinese Americans lost their jobs. Imagine trying to run a family restaurant or a tiny gift shop or any business right in the middle of a disaster area. The people of Chinatown opened their hearts and wallets to help their fellow Americans, raising $1.4 million for victims of 9/11. But when it came time to distribute relief funds, many in Chinatown felt overlooked, lost in the shadow. While much of the funds rightfully went to the neediest, the Chinese community was left wondering who was going to help them. With the recovery effort just ending, these hard-working Americans are still struggling to recover and hang on to the American dream. In the middle of a busy day, Chinatown appears to be back to normal. Shops are open, restaurants are serving, there are people on the streets. But appearances can be this year are struggling to cope with the economic hardships that worsened since 9/11. Before the tragedy, nearly one-third of the people in Chinatown worked in the garment industry, and according to Mei Chen, vice president of a garment workers' trade union, the industry suffered a terrible blow.
Well, September 11th was really devastating to us because we're located mainly in Chinatown, so it's very close to the World Trade Center. And for several weeks and months afterwards, there were whole sections of the community where trucks who needed to deliver garments and all the materials used to make garments, had a lot of difficulty getting in and out. So as a result, and because of the economic recession, a lot of the work that normally comes into the factories dried up, causing massive unemployment.
Yuk Tao helps to support her husband and 2 sons. And how long did you work at that shop?
I worked about 7 years. When the garment factory closed down, I lost my job.
Sun Wu is also a garment worker.
9/11 happened and I lost my job. My wife also lost her job. I live downtown. I got asthma and I can't work. My son doesn't have a job and my daughter quit school to go find a job.
FEMA divided this small neighborhood in half, offering relief assistance only to those people located south of Canal Street.
The line at Canal Street meant that only workers who worked south of Canal Street got relief assistance, and 2/3 of our workers are north of Canal Street got nothing.
I applied, but because I work on the north side, I had no opportunity to receive assistance.
I was working on Canal North. Many people are from Canal North. Some come from the south. After 9/11, all of us were out of work.
40 garment factories closed after the attack. Yuk Tao showed us where she worked. These workers are worried about their future.
When I came here, I worked at the garment factories. Because I've done it so long, that's the only job I'm familiar with. I really hope the garment factories will survive. If the garment factories do close down, I hope to learn to do something else.
Dr. Xiao Chi Sim, Director of Research at the Asian American Federation, conducted a study about the economic impact 9/11 has had on Chinatown.
Based on the data that we analyzed from relief agencies, both from government as well as private sources, we are looking at least 7,000 workers, most of them working in garment and restaurant sectors, having lost their jobs in the first 3 months after September 11th. This again, for community of this size, you're looking at for every 4 workers in Chinatown, 1 of them lost their job, and it's very significant. Within the garment industry, we're looking at a typical 40, 50-year-old middle-aged female immigrant workers who speak very little language, English language, who has very little transferable skills in the mainstream job markets. So it's pretty worrisome in terms of what are other type of alternative for them if they cannot find a job in the Chinatown community.
Dr. Thomas Tam, a psychologist and executive director of the Asian American Asian Research Institute, who has been studying the after effects of 9/11 on the people of this community.
When you close down 40 garment factories, immediately it affects the money. Immediately the banks are suffering because the deposit will be affected. And this is where a lot of the businesses depends on Ground Zero, activities to survive. the tourist business, the linked to that, the restaurant business, the jewelry business, the gift shops, etc. All of these are all linked up.
The effects of massive unemployment and lack of tourists are felt all over Chinatown. Spencer Chen, owner of the Sweet and Tart Cafe, invited us into his restaurant for a cup of tea. He explained that in spite of a well-publicized visit by former President Clinton and Robert De Niro to revive tourism in Chinatown after 9/11, his business has declined 70%. He has laid off 10 people. He says that last year the restaurant was full every night. When we were there, 2 out of 3 of the dining rooms in this restaurant were empty. Mr. Chen is happy with the assistance he received. He kept good records and his accountant filed his applications. His neighbor, Soy Lin Ai, is not so happy. This grandmother and owner of Pai Long gift shop lost 50% of her business. Soy Lin said that she only received $1,500 in assistance. Mr. Soon, a shop owner up the street, explained.
My income is down by 50%, personal income. If you apply through the Small Business Administration, you only have like a 20% chance of getting a loan because they require you have a lot of documentation. You have to put an extra mortgage on your building or any property you own. So a lot of people just didn't even bother to apply. I mean, the most you get is like $2,500, which is not much.
I've been speaking to many of the small business owners here in Chinatown, and many of them have told me the same story. Business is down, and they're hurting. Chinese Americans are a proud group of people whose culture discourages them from discussing their problems in public. In shop after shop, they would tell me their stories, but would not appear on camera.
So there's this pride of being a gainfully employed individual, and there's a language barriers. There is this stress about trying to make ends meet. And the total reliance on the second generation, their sons or daughters, certainly going through the applications for FEMA assistance or this or that, or going to the hospital. It needs the assistance from their sons and daughters. So these are the issues that Chinese families, most of them are immigrants, faced.
Some of the leaders in Chinatown are very upset about where the relief effort is focused. Steve Yip is the Director of Operations at the Chinese Planning Council.
9/11 hit the financial district, and we live in a capitalist society, and the government efforts pretty much have been exclusively pointed towards the very much lower Manhattan area, Tribeca area, and they're out to basically rebuild and recover the economic base, for the city, and that we're talking about like large corporations. But in this kind of circumstance, it's very obvious also that the common person, and particularly this particular immigrant community, is not benefiting, and they do have aspirations where they, come to this country, they work themselves to death so their kids can make it.
These people are determined to make it.
Reporter Catherine Sung and I visited the Chinatown Manpower Project, where federal funds help to pay to retrain some of the garment workers.
How do you ask for help?
Helping themselves by getting an education is what brings them to class every day. Sun Wu is trying to learn English.
Right after 9/11, once they started this program, we have been here every day since.
And some help came to the north side of Canal Street recently when FEMA changed the eligibility requirements to include all of Manhattan businesses. But for these students, who have known little else but hard work, the solution is not just short-term government assistance. It is the chance to find a new job. Listen to this student who worked 19 years in a garment factory.
We hope that big companies will hire us. We know that our English is not good. We just hope that they will let us try. We hope that they will let us work while we learn. We don't want to be dependent on the government. That is why we're all working so hard to learn English as well as other skills, so that one day we will find a good job.
And for a long time, I think that Chinatown has not been mentioned, has not been focused, and very little attention has been put on Chinatown. And it's about time that people begin to change their focus.